Today we're looking at the Keychron V1 Ultra, and it's one of those boards that looks pretty familiar at first glance. It's a 75% Keychron, it's plastic, has a knob, it's wireless, hot swap, all those usual modern pre-built keyboard things that we've come to expect, but it has one thing extra up its sleeve. That's the V1 Ultra is running ZMK, and that matters. ZMK is the firmware that the keyboard runs. It was developed by Pete Johansson, so I was already curious about this board when I first saw it back at CES in January. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Before we get into this, the video is not sponsored. I did pay for this board myself. Keychron did not send it over, and they are not privy to anything that I'm going to say in advance. So what you're getting here is my honest experience with the board, what I like, what I don't like, what surprised me, and what feels very Keychron, for better or for worse, and yeah, we'll talk about the stabilizers. So let's take a look inside the box. Inside the box you have another box with their shining logo on it. Quick start guide. A thing telling you to put in your switches correctly. The user manual. Something you don't usually get these days. Inside you get the Windows keys and an inter-accent, screwdrivers, extra screws, USB-C to A converter, keycap switch puller, and of course the C to C cable. And then you have the keyboard itself. As you can tell by it putting its name on the back. So it comes out of the box ready to use. Full set of keycaps, switches, everything you need. The knob, which is a nice, satisfying click as usual. Everything that you would expect from a Keychron keyboard. It has that, some would say, janky OSA keycap profile. Then the lowercase modifiers, which are somewhat divisive at times. But from first impression, the V1 Ultra uses the 75% layout, which is one of those layouts that makes sense for a lot of people. You get your function row, you get your arrows, you get some navigation, you get the knob, but it doesn't take up nearly as much space as a full-size keyboard. And yes, I do like a good, no, let's not say that. No, I do enjoy having a knob on a keyboard for volume control. It makes things a lot easier. The board feels very familiar right away. If you've used recent Keychron keyboards, especially the Mac series, you're going to recognize this because it's using the exact same case design. I discovered this when I was looking at it because here on the back, where you can see the USB dongle receptacle, which is great to have, there's a second spot right here where it looks like there could be something else. And that's because on the Macs there was. On the Mac series, you actually have a USB-C dongle and a USB-A dongle. On this one, we'll talk about this a little bit later, the 2.4 gigahertz is not directly supported by ZMK, so they obviously couldn't have both when they were shoehorning in support for the USB. So they just took it out and put a cap on it and put some poorly framed, ultra-fast wireless words on it. And I say poorly framed because, I mean, you can see here that it's a little bit towards the top. I don't know why. I mean, you would think that it's Keychron, they would get it right, but they didn't. On the bottom, you have cat hair, but you also have brass fittings. In fact, all of the fittings on the inside of the case are also made of brass. So that's good quality and will likely last you for a while and not strip, which is important because the inside screws are Phillips. So the case, which is a ABS plastic, not aluminum, but it does have some weight to it. It has a little flex if you just kind of wiggle it, but it is lighter for on the go. The switches, which are their brand new full palm silk switches, in this case the reds, although they come in 3 different flavors, are made by Gateron, but are light years better than their previous generations, like the Jupiter switches, and feel and sound so much. Keychron stock switches never been like bad. they've always been serviceable. If you're not a person who uses a lot of different switches, if you're coming from various major brands, you're gonna not hate the old switches. But then if you were to be given the two keyboards side by side, the Max and the Ultra, you'll immediately feel the difference and hear it. Much better sound. It's a smoother, cleaner sound. Makes the whole board just feel more complete out of the box, more premium. Would I put different switches in it? Obviously, it's me, and I use a lot of switches. Now let's talk about what I consider to be the elephant in the room, the stabilizer. Stabilizers have, for years, been the weakest part of any Keychron keyboard, and that is because while they are screw-in stabilizers and PCB mount, which is great, they lube them like they don't know how. Like they don't know, like they're using a blindfold. Like they are just not even trying. In this particular case, and I've re-lubed these stabilizers because I wanted you to have a good example of the keyboard with, I wanted to have it put its best foot forward. But that being said, when I got in there, the stabilizer lube was sitting on top of the wire. So let me show you. So inside of a stabilizer, there's a wire that runs along the back, which you can see underneath here. So when I got it, the lube was sitting in a big dollop right there on all of the stabilizers. I cleaned them. I put in some dielectric grease, which is easily available at most hardware stores. Put a little along the ends of the wire, not along the bends, because the bends are sitting in the hooks. And there you go. Lube stabilizers, quick and dirty, no fuss, no muss. And it does add $7 to the cost, but then you have a huge tube of dielectric grease for all of your home needs. You could replace the stabilizers, but again, these are plate mount, and really they just need to have that ticking fixed. Now let's get into the thing that really makes this board interesting, ZMK. ZMK is an open source keyboard firmware that has become especially known for its excellent Bluetooth low energy performance. And that's really the part that is the most important thing on the Keychron V1 Ultra. Keychron uses the Keychron launcher software to facilitate connecting to the keyboard and making changes to the key map layout, the backlight, macros, which are a little difficult to program under normal ZMK Studio, as well as firmware updates, advanced mode where you can set your polling rates on the cable and the 2.4 gigahertz, which we'll get into in a second. Change your backlighting. One of the more interesting things is that you can use SnapTap on a mechanical keyboard. So you come in here, you create your last key priority, you choose your A, your D, submit, and now you have a last key priority set. You come down here. Now, keep in mind the mechanical implementation of SnapTap is not going to be as good as a Hall effect implementation of SnapTap, and that is because you do not have your rapid trigger to use to be able to release and immediately press down again. But the fact that it hasn't at all is very interesting. There's only one other keyboard recently that I've seen that has this feature, and that is the EpoMaker TH108 V2 Pro. I don't know if the other V2 Pro series TH keyboards have this feature enabled on it, but it is available through their web-based software as well. Now, I said I was going to talk about the 2.4 gigahertz wireless and the important caveat associated with it, and that is that the ZMK itself does not have 2.4 gigahertz dongle support. Pete Johansson confirmed that with me directly. And so the 2.4 gigahertz mode here is something that Keychron added later as part of its own implementation. And I want to be clear on that. It's not automatically a bad thing. It's actually kind of interesting, but it does mean that you're not going to get that same wireless performance that 600 hours, proposed 600 hours on Bluetooth that you are going to get on the 2.4 gigahertz wireless. If you can, always run this board in Bluetooth if you're running it wirelessly. The 2.4 is going to give you better gaming performance, certainly better gaming performance. Wired is always better for gaming performance anyway, especially with the 8K polling rate that this has. But with the Bluetooth, you're going to only be restricted to a 125 Hz polling rate. Typing on the V1 Ultra is nice if you like the profile. It's pretty basic. We'll get into the sound test in just a second. It's got a nice flexi board, so it'll reduce some of the stress for a long day of typing. It has your starting kind of low typing angle, but it is adjustable with 2 feet and then 2 more feet to increase your typing angle. I did not find on their website where it specifically stated what those typing angles are, but if I had to take a guess, I would say that this is a 5-degree typing angle. The first stage would bring it up to 7, and then this would bring it up to about 9 to 10. So if you like having that full in your face, I would use the second stage feed. If you are looking to go a little bit flatter, because that is recommended, then I would just stick with the base feet, or no feet extended. So now we've reached the sound test. As I've stated before, I did lube the stabilizers, and that is the only change that's been made to the board. It has all of the same stock switches, which are the red silk. That's the linear switches, as opposed to the banana switches, which would be their tactile. And I believe they have a brown, which is a lighter tactile. Then you have their double shot PBT OSA keycaps, which you have here. And without further ado, let's get into the typing test. The ABS plastic case makes it a little bit deeper. The foams obviously make it softer. It has plate foam, case foam, a second layer of case foam, as well as a PET sheet, but no PE foam on the PCB. So keep that in mind. It is something that you can add as an aftermarket product through a company like Keyboard Customs, or you can even, if you can get the files, you can actually print your own on like a Cricut. Just get a PE sheet and print it out. Let's talk about the things I like and the things I don't like about this board. So what do I like? Obviously, ZMK. I love the fact that ZMK is starting to make its way into more of the mainstream, I say mainstream, keyboards. Keychron, I call it a mainstream keyboard at this point because they are sold at major stores like Best Buy. They are sold at major stores like Micro Center, depending on how you feel about Micro Center. And this is really US centric, but they're also available in stores throughout the world. The second thing I like are the red silk switches. I think that they are one of those things that makes this, for a new keyboard purchaser, something that makes this keyboard really work out of the box and feel like a good custom keyboard. You will get the same experience on the banana switches, only with the tactile bump, on the browns with the light tactile bump. But I, of course, go with, because that's my personal preference. And sure, it uses the same case as the the last generation Macs, but that's actually going to be to its benefit, because one of the really interesting things that Keychron has done recently, and something that might make this even more interesting for you as a purchase, is that they've actually released all of the plate and case files as downloadable files for you to be able to edit and create your own cases, your own designs using their PCB framework. So check that out if you are interested. And they've done that with their entire line. So that is the V series, the Q series, the K series, the C series, all of them. All of them, you can now take their original case design, this box on wedge, and you can actually edit it, or just print yourself a new case. Maybe you want a blue case and you have a print bed big enough to print a full-sized V1 case. Then knock yourself out. Print yourself out a blue case out of PLA or TPU, and you're off to the races. Just take your fittings, move them over, or you'll have to install the brass fittings on the internals so that it has something to screw into. But yeah, it's awesome. Basically what I'm saying is, for $115, this is a strong package overall. But let's talk about the things I don't love. First is the stabilizers. I understand that stabilizers are something hard for manufacturers to get right. But in this case, they really needed to work harder on it. It's been quite a while, and Keychron is notoriously bad for their stabilizer lubing process. And I wish they would fix it, because that is a thing that would really heighten this board just that much further. Now, going back to the case design, I do think it's a little lazy of them to take the exact same cases and just put a cover over it. I think that's kind of lame. It's not a big deal. It's obviously not a deal breaker, but you know, it is what it is. So where does that leave the Keychron V1 Ultra? Honestly, I like it. It's not the perfect keyboard. It's, if you're in the market for this level of keyboard, then it is definitely one of the most compelling options that I've seen. The layout is practical. If you're new to the custom keyboard scene, a lot of people do not want to give up their F-row. A lot of games utilize the F-row, so you don't want to give it up. You have your basic navigation. You have no end key, but one of the things you can do is you can use your function layer. So you can program any of the keys any way you want through their launcher software and add yourself an end key. I like to use these keys right here. And then you have the keyboard firmware, the ZMK. The thing I love about this keyboard, and the thing that makes it really a compelling choice, more so than 8K polling, because 8K polling is stupid, but the Keychron estimated 660 hours of battery life with the lights off on Bluetooth is pretty awesome. I wouldn't expect to actually get that from it. I would say you'd probably get about 400 hours, but 400 hours is still, I mean, months of battery life where you don't need to charge it. You just leave it in your bag, pack it up, let's go. Now going back to that 8K polling rate. Just to be straight, as the average gamer, 8K polling is not going to do you any damn good. None. You're better off lowering that 8K polling rate down to about 2K, especially with a mechanical keyboard, and saving yourself the clock cycles on the CPU. Not that the keyboard is really using up as much as, let's say, a mouse at 8K polling, which is a lot for a mouse. And if you're running that at 8K polling, you might want to consider reducing that as well. 8K polling is just a hype number, and that's really all it is. The better hype number for this are the hundreds of hours of battery life that you'll get from using this keyboard. Would I buy this keyboard as a good 75% wireless keyboard? Yeah. At $115, the price point is pretty compelling. You could go with the all aluminum case Q version of the V1, which would be the Q1 Ultra, and you would have that full aluminum case, but I would say that at $240, that's just too much money. I think that this V1 is the sweet spot, and yeah, I mean, I did buy it, and I've been enjoying it. I did change out the keycaps and the switches though, obviously, but I changed it back for you guys. So that's the Keychron V1 Ultra. A familiar Keychron shell, better stock switches, slightly questionable stabilizer tuning, genuinely interesting firmware, and one of the more compelling wireless stories Keychron has put out recently. Let me know what you think. Are you excited to see ZMK showing up in the mainstream keyboards? How about AK polling? Do you like it? Do you see value in it? Or are you mostly like me, where the words good Bluetooth performance are somehow enough to make the keyboard interesting? Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more keyboard content, and as always, keep building.